Good morning. It's Monday, January 29th, 2024, the fifth week of the year, and the 29th day of 366. Thank you for joining me reading Granddaddy's Bible. This is the book of Leviticus. This book is called Leviticus because it treats of the offices, ministries, rites, and ceremonies of the priests and Levites. The Hebrews call it Vayikra, from the word with which it begins. Chapter 1 of Holocausts or Burnt Offerings. And the Lord called Moses and spoke to him from the tabernacle of the testimony, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and thou shalt say to them, The man among you that shall offer to the Lord a sacrifice of the cattle, that is, offering victims of oxen and sheep, if his offering be a holocaust and made of the herd, he shall offer a male without blemish at the door of the testimony, to make the Lord favorable to him. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the victim, and it shall be acceptable and help to its expiation. And he shall immolate the calf before the Lord, and the priests, the sons of Aaron, shall offer the blood thereof, pouring it around the altar, which is before the door of the tabernacle. And when they have flayed the victim, they shall cut the joints into pieces, and shall put fire on the altar, having before laid in order a pile of wood. And they shall lay the parts that are cut in order thereupon, to wit, the head, and all things that cleave to the liver, the entrails and feet being washed with water. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar for a holocaust, and a sweet savour to the Lord. And if the offering be of the flocks, a holocaust of sheep or of goats, he shall offer a male without blemish. And he shall immolate it at the side of the altar that looketh to the north before the Lord. But the sons of Aaron shall pour the blood thereof upon the altar round about. And they shall divide the joints, the head, and all that cleave to the liver, and shall lay them upon the wood under which the fire is to be put. But the entrails and the feet they shall wash with water, and the priest shall offer it and burn it all upon the altar for a holocaust and most sweet savour to the Lord. But if the oblation of a holocaust to the Lord be of birds, or of turtles, or of young pigeons, the priest shall offer it at the altar, and twisting back the neck, and breaking the place of the wound, he shall make the blood run down upon the brim of the altar. But the crop of the throat and the feathers he shall cast beside the altar at the east side, in the place where the ashes are wont to be poured out. And he shall break the pinions thereof, and shall not cut or divide it with a knife, and shall burn it upon the altar, putting fire under the wood. It is a holocaust and oblation of the most sweet savour to the Lord. Offerings of flour and first fruits. When anyone shall offer an oblation of sacrifice to the Lord, his offering shall be of fine flour, and shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense, and shall bring it to the sons of Aaron the priests, and one of them shall take a handful of the flour and oil, and all the frankincense, and shall put it in memorial upon the altar for a most sweet savour to the Lord. And the remnant of the sacrifice shall be Aaron's and his sons, holy of holies of the offerings of the Lord. But when thou offerest the sacrifice baked in the oven of flour, to wit, loaves without leaven, tempered with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, if thy oblation be from the frying pan of flour tempered with oil, and without leaven, thou shalt divide it into little pieces, and shall pour oil upon it. And if the sacrifice be from the gridiron, in like manner the flour shall be tempered with oil. And when thou offerest it to the Lord, thou shalt deliver it to the hands of the priest. And when he hath offered it, he shall take a memorial out of the sacrifice, and burn it upon the altar for a sweet savour to the Lord. And whatsoever is left shall be Aaron's and his sons, holy of holies of the offerings of the Lord. Every oblation that is offered to the Lord shall be made without leaven, neither shall any leaven or honey be burnt in the sacrifice to the Lord. You shall offer only the first fruits of them and grits. and gifts, but they shall not be put upon the altar for a savour of sweetness. Whatsoever sacrifice thou offerest, thou shalt season it with salt, neither shalt thou take away the salt of the covenant of thy God from thy sacrifice. In all thy oblations thou shalt offer salt. But if thou offer a gift of the firstfruits of thy corn to the Lord, of the ears yet green, thou shalt dry it at the fire, and break it small like meal. And so shalt thou offer thy firstfruits to the Lord, pouring oil upon it, and putting on frankincense, because it is the oblation of the Lord, whereof the priest shall burn for a memorial of the gift, part of the corn broken small, and of the oil, and all the frankincense. Chapter 3. Peace offerings. And if his oblation be a sacrifice of peace offerings, and he will offer of the Lord of the herd, whether male or female, he shall offer them without blemish before the Lord. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of his victim, which shall be slain in the entry of the tabernacle of the testimony, and the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall pour the blood round about the altar. And they shall offer of the sacrifice of peace offerings for an oblation to the Lord, the fat that covereth the entrails, and all the fat that is within, to the kidneys, with the fat wherewith the flanks are covered, and the caul of the liver, with the 2 little kidneys. And they shall burn them upon the altar for a holocaust, putting fire under the wood, for an oblation of most sweet savour to the Lord. But if his oblation and the sacrifice of peace offering be of the flock, whether he offer male or female, they shall be without blemish. If he offer a lamb before the Lord, he shall put his hand upon the head of his victim, and it shall be slain in the entry of the tabernacle of the testimony. And the sons of Aaron shall pour the blood thereof around about upon the altar. And they shall offer of the victim of peace offerings a sacrifice to the Lord, the fat and the whole rump, with the kidneys, and the fat that covereth the belly, and all the vitals, and both the little kidneys, with the fat that is about the flanks, and the caul of the liver, with the little kidneys. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar for the food of the fire, and of the oblation of the Lord. If his offering be a goat, and he offer it to the Lord, he shall put his hand upon the head thereof, and shall immolate it in the entry of the tabernacle of the testimony, and the sons of Aaron shall pour the blood thereof around about upon the altar. And they shall take of it for the food of the Lord's fire, the fat that covereth the belly, and that covereth all the vital parts, the 2 little kidneys, with the caul that is open, that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the fat of the liver, and the little kidneys. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar for the food of the fire, and of a most sweet savour. All the fat shall be the Lord's. By a perpetual law for your generations, and in your habitations, neither blood nor fat shall you eat at all. That's the end of chapter 3. I'm going to go back and read these subtexts. I realize I haven't been doing that. I don't remember why I stopped, but I'm going to go ahead and start reading that again. Chapter 1, verse 3, a holocaust, that is a whole burnt offering, holocauston, so called, because the whole victim was consumed with fire, and given in such manner to God as wholly to evaporate, as it were, for his honor and glory, without having any part of it reserved for the use of man. The other sacrifices of the Old Testament were either offerings for sin or peace offerings, and these latter again were either offered in thanksgiving or for blessings received, or by way of prayer for new favors or graces. So that sacrifices were then offered to God for 4 different ends or intentions, answerable to the different obligations which man has to God. 1. By way of adoration, homage, praise, and glory due to his divine majesty. 2. By way of thanksgiving for all benefits received from him. 3. By way of confessing and craving pardon for sins. 4. By way of prayer and petition for grace and relief in all necessities. In the new law, we have but one sacrifice, viz., that the body and blood of Christ. But this one sacrifice of the New Testament perfectly answers all these four ends, and both priests and people, as often as it is celebrated, ought to join in offering it up for these four ends. Chapter 2, verse 3. Holy of Holies, that is most holy, as being dedicated to God and set aside by his ordinance for the use of his priests. Verse 11. Without leaven or honey. No leaven or honey was to be used in the sacrifice offered to God, to signify that we are to exclude from the pure worship of the gospel all double dealing and affection to carnal pleasures. Verse 13. Salt. In every sacrifice salt was to be used, which is an emblem of wisdom and discretion, without which none of our performances are agreeable to God. Chapter 3, verse 1. Peace offerings. Peace in the scripture language signifies happiness, welfare, or prosperity. In a word, all kinds of blessings. Such sacrifices, therefore, as were offered either on occasion of blessings received or to obtain new favors, were called pacific or peace offerings. In these, some part of the victim was consumed with fire on the altar of God. Other parts were eaten by the priests and by the persons for whom the sacrifice was offered. Verse 17. Fat is meant of the fat which by the prescription of the law was to be offered on God's altar, not of the fat meat such as we commonly eat. We'll stop there with chapter 4 subtext. Thank you for joining me reading Granddaddy's Bible. Have a wonderful week, and go out and speak the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ.